Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is video number 2 for the Pokemon GBL 101 series. Today I'll be talking about Pokemon roles. What you see on the screen here are the topics that I'll be going to be covering. So Pokemon stat product, Pokemon common types and roles, and Shadow versus non-Shadow Pokemon. How do they affect the roles that each Pokemon plays? Okay, so for this series, I'm going to be going into a simple graphic from the Sacramento Regionals for 2025. So this is the regional competition for the Pokemon Go competitive circuit. These are the top 12 Pokemon that are in the usage for Sacramento. They are not all of them are high meta, and I think that's a graphics issue here as well. This is supposed to be Alolan Sandslash. Okay, so let's start with talking about Pokemon roles. Okay, first, before you know about Pokemon roles, you got to take a look at the Pokemon stat product as well. So what is the stat product? As I have mentioned in the previous video, right? A stat product is basically a combination of your Pokemon's attack, defense, and stamina, or HP, as I would like to call it. This stat product is basically also affected by your Pokemon's IV as well. Okay, so what's important is to focus on the stat product and as well as what type of role your Pokemon can do. Okay, so let's take a look at the first maybe 3 Pokemon because they fulfill a similar role. So Clodsire, Azumarill, and Dunsparce. Okay, Clodsire is all the way up here. Okay, if you take a look at Clodsire, so you can see the stamina and defense is definitely pretty high above the attack. So this Pokemon is probably a bulky Pokemon, and it's used more like a tank or to soak up pressure. Okay, so if you see in the traits in PvP Poke, it's like a tanky, bulky kind of Pokemon. Okay, but it's also quite spammy. Spammy just means that it can fire off moves at a very short time frame. Usually spammy means that you can fire around a single move within, let's say, 12 turns, so 12 fast move turns. Yeah, okay, so the first fast move is Sludge Bomb for Clodsire. So Sludge Bomb takes 6 poison stings, which is 12 fast moves basically. Okay, we move to the next one, Azumarill. So Azumarill is a little bit down below, but it's still, yeah, it's here. Okay, similarly, if you look at the defense and stamina stats, okay, Azumarill is also very tanky. It is also used as a tanky Pokemon. However, Azumarill is not a very good attack-based Pokemon. Your attacks are only good basically against dragons. So that's the main reason why you want to play Azumarill is if you foresee that your battles you get into battles with a lot of dragons. Yeah, Azumarill will be a very good counter. Okay, this is very useful in those cups where Azumarill is active and there's like a dragon element in a like a 3 typing cup. Okay, so Azumarill would probably do very well in those. Okay, I'm gonna skip Dunsparce because it's basically the same. Now let's look at Feraligatr, and I'm gonna skip to the third topic first, which is Shadow versus non-Shadow Feraligatr. Okay, so for Feraligatr, okay, here you can see Shadow and non-Shadow Feraligatr at a very high ranking position. However, these two don't really perform the same tasks. Okay, Feraligatr is more of a versatile Pokemon where the Shadow version brings it more attack. What is the benefit of having a Shadow? Shadow just basically means that this Pokemon does 20% extra damage, but it also takes 20% more damage from attacks. Okay, so let's look here at comparison. So Feraligatr normal comparison is actually 123 attack, 117 and 124 defense. Sorry, 117 defense and 124 HP. for Shadow Feraligatr, basically this stat gets buffed by 20%. Okay, and then this stat gets reduced by 20%. So if you take a look at the raw numbers here, okay, attack and defense drops by 20% and attack increases by 20%. So how does it play into the roles that Feraligatr can do? Okay, so most of the time Feraligatr is used either as a safe swap. Okay, safe swap meaning that you use Feraligatr to try and pivot out of bad situations. Mainly because it can basically be very spammy. So yeah, you can see here it's very spammy. Okay, the reason why it's spammy is because it has the Shadow Claw. Okay, you can see 2 turns. Every 2 fast move turns, you get to fire a Shadow Claw, and by the time you get to 10 turns, you get to 1 Hydro Cannon. So it's very powerful. This attack is one of the most powerful attacks in the Pokemon database. Okay, if you guys are familiar with community days, you need to know that whenever the community days starter Pokemon, whenever they get their turn for the community day, basically the 3 moves that are very powerful: Hydro Cannon, Blast Burn, and Frenzy Plant. These are the moves that are very important for the starter Pokemons, okay, especially for Feraligatr and other starter Pokemons, because these moves charge. I think these are the fastest moves to be charged in reference to the damage and how fast you can charge the move. Okay, because at 10 fast turns, Hydro Cannon is one of the only moves that can fire with super high damage. Okay, as of now, I don't really see any other move that can fire equally fast and equally damaging as well, without any debuff or without any bad effects to it. There's also a move called Wild Charge, which is an electric move, but that move fires at 5 Thunder Shocks, but it debuffs yourself. So Hydro Cannon is actually just a full damage move. Okay, so Feraligatr in this case, if you compare the Shadow and non-Shadow, the Shadow is mostly used as an attacker. Like you're basically using it to spam attacks and try to take down your opponent's shields as fast as possible and put pressure onto your opponent, basically by using your charge attacks. However, the non-Shadow, you can also do high damage, but it's definitely not as high as the Shadow version. The non-Shadow is basically used more as like a soak tank, similar to what Clodsire can do, but Clodsire obviously tanks harder. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the good thing about Feraligatr is that its stat is pretty much very balanced. Okay, the attack and defense is basically similar in numbers. Okay, so you can use it as an attacker or as a defender. Okay, for now that I've talked about Feraligatr, I'm going to go into the common types and roles, as well as the roles in a team. Okay, so in a Pokemon team, there's actually 3 roles. If you look at this drop down here, there's a lead, closer, and a switches. Okay, so let's just focus on these top 3. Okay, so what is a lead, closer, and a switch? So if you go into okay, let's give a sample team. Okay, this is a team that I like to run in the past, and it's worked well so far, quite well. Okay, let's take a look at from top to bottom. Basically, I'm just trying to show you in a chronological order. So top to bottom, Feraligatr in this case is used as a lead. So what is the intention of using it as a lead? The lead is that whatever Pokemon that comes out, you are immediately putting high charge attack pressure onto your opponent, especially if your opponent starts with a very frail Pokemon. Normally a Hydro Cannon will do a lot of damage to the lead Pokemon. So that's the reason why you use Shadow Feraligatr as a lead. Okay. The second role that we would like to call is called the safe swap. Okay, so safe swap is like what if you see something that Shadow Variegator cannot beat? So for example, what if you see a Morpeko, which is an electric type? So what do you swap into? Okay, Diggersby in this case, in this team composition, will be your safe swap. Okay, it's used as like a safe Pokemon that can counter the weakness of your lead Pokemon. So that's basically the effect of it, and as well as it can also pivot into some. It can also get your battles, like pivot your battles into a different alignment whenever you get the wrong alignment. Wrong alignment meaning that when you start off with a lead, um, you, let's say you face a weak Pokemon, let's say water against electric, you try to use Diggersby to counter the electric, okay, and then opponent probably swaps in with another water. So when you see the Morpeko again, you can then bring in either your Clodsire again to try and counter it in the future. Okay, so that's the use of a safe swap. Okay, and then we have the closer Pokemon, which is Clodsire. Okay, so I'm going to talk about common typings. Okay, so closer is all, most of the time these are Pokemon that hit very very hard. So Clodsire in this role, because Earthquake and Stone Age both hit super hard on whoever is taking the damage. Okay, even if it's neutral damage, Earthquake still does a lot of damage. Shadow Variegator also can be used as a closer, in my opinion, because it hits hard with Hydro Cannon, so you can use it as a closer as well. But I do think that it's very good as a lead, because one thing is that the higher your Pokemon are on this list, the better it is for it to be used as a lead. Okay, not in every scenario, but usually high attack Pokemon are always better to use in the lead, because your aim is to try and take down your opponent's shields as fast as possible. So when you are doing a lot of charge move pressure, that gives you the benefit of like being able to take down your opponent's shields faster. Okay, some common typings and their roles. Okay, usually typings with a lot of resistance are used as like defensive roles or safe swaps. For example, water. Okay, so water, you can look at Azumarill, you can look at Quagsire. You can see shield pressure, flexible. Okay, this Quagsire is actually good as a safe swap. Okay, reason being that it has only one weakness, which is grass. So it's very, and because it's spammy as well. Just 5 mud shots to the first Aqua Tail, and then the next 4 mud shots to the next Aqua Tail. So similar to Variegator, but it doesn't do that much damage. It's still quite spammy as a safe swap. Okay, so water is one of the types that is actually very very bulky, very very spammy. It's like a safe swap kind of option. Okay, now we talk about, let's say, fire type. So if you're going to fire types, okay, fire types, for example, Talonflame, they are more in the position of a lead or a closer. Whenever you see shield pressure or fast move pressure, it's basically attack type Pokemon. So you can tell that fire types basically are more attack minded. Okay, this is Shadow Typhlosion, one of my favorite. The attack stat is definitely way higher than the defense stats. Okay, especially with Shadow. So the Incinerate actually does a lot of damage. Okay, maybe we can go to the normal types. Okay, normal types are actually used mostly as tankers, or it can be a safe sword as well. So tankers, or depending on the Pokemon, it can be used as a closer. Some Pokemon don't really fire very hard, like Dunsparce. Dunsparce should not be used as a closer, in my opinion. It's more like a safe swap. Okay, so normally what you want as a safe swap is like a very bulky Pokemon, but it can also fire either very hard hitting moves or very fast moves. Your aim is to basically try to tank whatever is in front of you during the safe swap, and then also fire back equally damaging moves, which makes the purpose of the safe swap which basically fulfills the purpose of the safe swap. Okay, Yeah, okay, so that's actually it for typings. Okay, uh, now let's debate shadow versus non-shadow. Okay, so this is my opinion. In certain scenarios, shadow is good when you know that uh, the Pokemon in the shadow form is a lot better than the Pokemon in the non-shadow form. Reason being that, okay, let's say for Feraligatr, again, this example, every set is balanced. So that it's not very good at if you compare to like a shadow Feraligatr, um, in a 1v1 matchup, the shadow Feraligatr will always be the one that is an advantage because the hydro cannons hit very very hard, even more harder than whatever than the hydro cannon from the normal Feraligatr. So it's like, uh, if you have a very balanced Pokemon, the shadow version always does more damage, which usually is better. Okay, let's talk about Typhlosion. Yeah, Typhlosion. Okay, in this case, similarly, the shadow version is definitely more effective. Why? Because this Pokemon is very very attack based. Okay, so if you're already very attack based, using a non-shadow Pokemon is not very useful because your defense, although slightly higher, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But using a shadow version, the attack gets multiplied by a lot more. Okay, so the shadow Typhlosion is always the better choice to use, in any scenario. Just a fun fact that shadow Typhlosion, if you see here, it can defeat Clodsire. Yeah, but the non-shadow Typhlosion, Clodsire is nowhere to be seen. Actually, it loses to Clodsire. Okay, so because of its so high attack of Incinerate and Blast Burn, it's always better to use the shadow version. Okay, now I'm gonna go to a more bulkier Pokemon. Let's try Registeel. Okay, although not very high in meta, but in this case, Registeel is like a bulk, is like a more like a tank. Okay, Registeel in the shadow form is not very good. Reason being, because you're so tanky. If you look at its stats, okay, your defense is way way higher than your attack. Why would you want to buff the attack when your defense is already so high? Okay, so always, if you're aiming to use the like a tanker, it's always better to use a non-shadow version. Reason being that it can take more damage. I think Registeel takes about 2 earthquakes to be defeated. Okay, even worse if you have the Z cannon debuff on your opponent, then it becomes three earthquakes to KO the Registeel. Okay, but the shadow version, okay, maybe you can tell the difference. Okay, here the shadow version, you can see that it loses against Shadow Feraligatr, but in the non-shadow version, it doesn't lose that bad to Shadow Feraligatr. If you see here, this rating is basically telling you how bad you lose. Okay, 129 versus, oh sorry, 129. Okay, but this is a lot higher. Shadow Feraligatr is higher in the meta, um, it can lose. Sorry, Registeel in the shadow form loses more badly to the Shadow Feraligatr than Registeel in the normal form. Okay, so if you look at this graph here, on key losses, Annihilate is the one that can defeat Shadow Feraligatr. Sorry, Annihilate is the best counter to Registeel, which means that you basically need the absolute counter to Registeel to defeat Registeel, but in the shadow version, here you can see basically Drapion can also can also lose, can also beat uh, a Shadow Registeel. Okay, Drapion being a poison type, so that's even more like weird because poison is supposed to be resisted by steel. Okay, so yeah, if you're a tanker, try to use a non-shadow version. Okay, um, last example maybe. Okay, we have Bibarel. Bibarel is debatable whether you want to use a shadow or non-shadow because although the defense stat is very low, it relies more on the HP and the attack stat. So in this case, shadow, what it does is that it does more damage, um, you can still tank at least one move, like one fire move or one, let's say, thunder punch, but the shadow one gives a lot more a fast attack pressure, which is the roll out move. So you can see spammy, which is fast attack pressure. Okay. Um, the non-shadow version is a lot more tanky. Okay. Because of the base stamina. Okay. So yeah, that's about it. If you guys got any questions on which Pokemon is better on to use either shadow or non-shadow, just go to the PvP Poke website. You can just type in, let's say, your Pokemon, and then you can see which of these are actually better. If the scores are very close, like 7 and 8, it doesn't really matter. Like Feraligatr is like they are very close to each other, but in high level matches, these numbers actually do make a difference, because it makes a difference between whether you knock out your opponent or not. Also, you got to use the the shadow version or the non-shadow version in the correct roles. Like if you're using normal Feraligatr as a lead, is not as effective as the shadow Feraligatr. Normally, if you use the non-shadow Feraligatr, is either as a closer or as a safe swap, like a more bulky Pokemon. The shadow version is used either as a lead or as a safe swap. Okay. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pokemon GBL 101, and I'll see you in the next video again. Thank you.